Senorita French.
And I have to wonder what romantics your parents
Well,
parents
I was
were.
born in Wilkie, Saskatchewan, and they only had one paper that came once a month, the Free Press Prairie Farmer. And we had an outhouse, and when we were through reading the paper, it went out to the outhouse. And my dad used to read it out there. And he came across in those days, I was born in 1933, which was the time that movie came out on Ramona.
Oh, yes.
And so he was reading the story of Ramona in the farmer's paper. Every week, or every time it came, it would have another chapter. And he just thought it was so romantic that I was born in that time span. And it was Senorita Ramona. Well, he figured that was going to be a good name. So I got Leona after my cousin, Ramona after the lady in the story, and Senorita because he didn't realize it was a title.
And your maiden name was?
Miller.
Miller. So,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, what a romantic name. What a romantic man.
Oh, yeah, but my sister's name was Silverline Siglinda.
Oh, my. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yes, so was it a big family?
We had 8 in our family. Children.
8 children, yes, yeah. And what brought you from Saskatchewan to British Columbia?
Well, the older ones in the family grew up and did the thing. But there was my sister Ruth, and I was still home. I was 16 and she was 14. And we had my dad was a farmer. And he came from Deislingen, Germany as a young boy. And his dad had been a tailor. So his dad knew absolutely nothing about farming. So they muddled their way through. And eventually he got a farm that he could muddle his way through. And it ended up that they had 3 droughts in a row. And there was just no crop. So we packed up and we came berry picking in the Fraser Valley.
So
We
this was the
bought land
30s?
and we stayed there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And never went back, just except to pick up some things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fantastic a series of events. The
Yeah.
8 children and the dirty 30s.
Oh,
you
it
know?
was a terrible time.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Although, as children, we never recognized that.
I know.
We lived a perfect life. We gathered flowers on the hillside and we looked for birds' nests. And, we didn't.
Grasshoppers.
Well, yeah, we never thought we were hard done by.
Yeah.
Yeah, worst thing would be our shoes would still be wet from yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, I think children only know what they know. They never are missing anything.
No,
Unless they know that somebody else has it.
we never saw any other children.
And besides that, nobody had anything in those days.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good life. And our parents were not grumblers. They were thankful for what they had. My mother was born in Russia.
Oh, yes.
And then she immigrated to Germany when she was 18 to take sewing lessons. And when she was there, the war came, First World War. So she couldn't go back to Russia. So when the war is over, she thinks she's going to go back, but now there's a revolution.
Yes.
So she can't go back. So an uncle in Alberta sponsored her. And through the Lutheran Church, they had a program. They brought people out. And so she was one of those. And that's how she came to Canada.
So when your parents came to BC, they went to the Lower Mainland. And what did your dad do?
Oh, what didn't he do? We all worked. We had a lady had volunteered to give us a place to stay and cook. And we picked strawberries for her. And my dad worked there too. He didn't so much pick them as carry the crates and do all the work around the patch. And at night he would go and work in the cannery.
Oh, yes.
And that would be more wages. And then we went, that was in Aldergrove. And then we went raspberry picking in Sumas. And then we went hop picking at the hop yards. That was an experience. And by then it was time to go to school. In the meanwhile, my dad had bought 20 acres of land on the North Jackman Road in Aldergrove.
Oh, yeah.
And built a house. And when I talk about it now, it makes me laugh. Because shiplap, and people don't really know what shiplap was. It's boards that are not tongue and grooved, they're just boards. And so he built this little one-room house. And we went down to the second-hand store and we bought 2 army cots and mattresses and an old cook stove and a table, but I think only had 3 legs and needed 4. But anyhow,
Yep.
And way we started, we dug a toilet and built a toilet around, hand dug it.
Yes.
And we then a distance away, I might add, we dug a well.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And the thing that was so funny is that the bracken fern, I don't know if you know, do you know what bracken
Yes,
fern is?
I grew up in that area.
Yeah, it's a real miserable little
Yes.
thing. It would come up through the floorboards, like, where the boards were together. And that would come right in the middle of our house.
Of your house. Oh, yes.
Well,
Well, a little greenery.
With no windows or doors, because we couldn't afford them.
Yeah.
Until some time later. If we wanted to see anything, you had to open the door and let the light in. And we used to joke, here's a bag, run out and get us some light. Anyhow, we went to school. I went to school at Langley High. And so did my sister. And then we were on shift. And my dad, he was a great one for flashlights and light. And so he brought this big flashlight. So she would take it, and it would be dark in the morning, and walk down to the road where the bus came, take the bus. Oh, she'd put the flashlight in a tree, and then she'd get on the bus. So then when I would come, I didn't need a flashlight to get on, but I needed a flashlight to get off.
Go home. Yes.
So for the afternoon shift, so I had to take the flashlight home then.
They had shifts in school
Yeah, all
because
the
there
time.
was too many kids for
Yeah,
one
and they
building.
didn't have a very aggressive building program, I guess.
Not yet.
And I think that they were kind of amazed at how many people moved out and came to the Aldergrove region and Langley. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was a
well,
school
you know,
district.
it is really, really fertile land.
yeah.
Like you can farm
Oh,
on a couple of acres in that
beautiful
area,
land.
as opposed to here,
Oh.
where
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful land.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And so you met your husband.
Yeah, he lived on the Coghlan Road. We lived on the Jackman. We were 2 miles apart, but he was off to fighting the wars and riding his motorcycle and logging and this and that and the next thing. So in between there somewhere, I trapped him.
You trapped him. Okay. In the meantime, you got an education, though, too.
Well, a worldly education, yeah.
worldly
He quit school when he was in grade 9. His reasoning be he couldn't stand to have the teacher go over the same thing over and over again until the last kid got it. So
Well, I can understand that. But you got an education as well.
I was blessed, really, really blessed. I got teachers in high school that for some reason saw some promise in me. And they arranged for me to get a bursary and a scholarship. But even before that, they arranged for me to get summer work so that I'd, and the final thing was the one teacher got me a place to stay while I went to normal school. Don't ask me what normal school is. And anyhow, I worked for my room and board. And they were wonderful people. It was a Dr. and Mrs. Harrison. He was a lung surgeon. And I had to peel the vegetables for supper and do the dishes and put them away. And then they had a very active social life. They pretty well went out every night. And I was left with the children. But they got them all ready for bed and everything, and I just had to make sure they stayed in bed. And so I was there all year. Oh, and they gave me $5 a month to go on the bus to go to school. So, and I could take my lunch, so I didn't have to buy lunch. So it was a wonderful thing. And then when summer came, well, then I was done school. They only had 1 year then.
Yeah.
You had to have grade 13 in normal school. And so I had nothing, no kind of, And so they said, well, we're going to camp in our summer property, and we'll send the laundry home. And you do the laundry and iron it up, pack it up, and we'll pick it up. And you can stay in our place and we'll supply the groceries. And you can go to summer school.
Wow.
So fine, that's what I did. And I went to Sure Pass. You ever heard of that?
No.
It was a wonderful place. I don't think they have it anymore. They practically guaranteed you'd pass.
Wow.
That's why they
Sure
called
Pass.
it Sure Pass.
Yeah.
And boy, did they ever put you through the paces. Like what we really did was we studied all the old exams. And when I got to the final exam, when I had to write one, there wasn't anything on there I hadn't already done.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, they had a method.
Method to the madness. Yes. Yeah.
So that's how I got through school.
And
Debt-free.
debt-free, holy cow. Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. Yes.
It might if people would work for the room and board.
Well, indeed.
Yeah, well, they'd still have
Yeah.
their tuition and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. So you and Jim moved up here when?
In 1978.
And did you already have the place, or did you?
No, we
move up
bought
here?
it the year before.
Oh, yeah. And what made you buy where you did?
Well, first of all, we had lived on the property that we built our house on in Langley after we were married for 17 years. And then Jim got a condition called refractory anemia. There's a big long story till I get to that, but anyhow. And what it basically was is that his blood, the hemoglobin, it wouldn't carry, the blood wouldn't carry it.
Oh, yeah.
And so it would shoot the little things into your blood system before they were mature enough. And so they wouldn't do any they didn't carry any oxygen.
Oh, okay.
So he was in pretty rough shape. And so the doctor told us that he would either be dead or alive in 6 months, one or the other, which I guess anybody can say. And anyhow, it turned out, Jim always said, whenever anything wouldn't go right, he'd say, well, we should move north. And my dad would say, you guys ought to move north. And this kept coming up, just like the old guys said, move west,
Go west, young
So
man.
when he got sick, I thought, well, he could very well die, and he'd never have his wish. So, well, let's go and have a look. So we had friends up at Barrier, and we drove out there, went out there. And every place we looked at was a junkyard. Oh, they had stuff and old stuff and new stuff, and didn't have any gardens, and it was just terrible. And I thought, oh, this is the North, keep it. And so when we went home, on the way home, this fellow had, down at the coast, John Metzger, he said, I just listed a property up at 70 Mile House. And he said, if you see it, it's easier to sell it. But I'm never going to get up there. I haven't got time. If you guys drive by there, would you mind looking at it? So, well, okay, if I don't think we're going to be there, but if we are. Well, after we looked at all that junk, we didn't stay around there long. So we started home, and we said, well, let's go look at this thing. So we went down to look at it, and it was in the fall. And there's down like this on the side, and two little cabins, looked like a sky hook had come and dropped them in there. And a river running by, burbling along, and the birds singing, the whole bit. And to top it off, two son-in-laws of the people that owned it were down there hunting. So they said, well, come on in, and I guess you're about ready for a cold beer. And Jim said, yeah. So we went in, and they chatted us up and whatnot, and then we walked around the property, and then we went home. And we both said when we went home, that's where we should live. That's a good place to live. So we went and found John, the guy had given me the listing, and we bought it the next day.
Wow.
And then Now, when I look at it now, I think we must have been crazy, because now that it's burnt,
Yes.
there was moss this high on all the rocks, and it just looked so pristine. All of this, and now all you've got are these big gray rocks, and dead trees, of course. Yeah, But when we saw it, it wasn't like that. Fall colors.
Oh, yeah.
It was just so romantic. And Jim's last days is a good place to spend. Yeah, and we had 3 kids at that time.
Oh, yeah.
We had an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old and a 6-year-old.
So you packed up everything and moved to Turkey Gulch.
We had to be nuts to do it.
Was it called Turkey Gulch at the time?
And we went in November, and we had no wood in.
Oh, my.
And I have a picture here that shows you what happiness in the caribou is. It's a picture of a woodshed filled with wood.
And that's still happiness in the caribou, trust me. Yes,
Picture for you to show. And we had no wood. There was an old shed on there. So naturally we ripped it apart and burnt it and got wood as we could. And our oldest son, he helped a lot. And we survived the winter, but came in November.
Oh, yeah.
And we stayed in one of those little cabins.
Yes.
And it just had 2 tiny, weeny bedrooms and a kitchen, sort of.
Yes,
And we
kitchen,
had an outdoor buffet.
living area.
Outdoor buffet.
An open concept.
Yeah, it was. We were before our time.
Yes.
And we had carried water in the bucket, of course, and whatever. And how we survived it, I don't know. The scariest time that I had was Jim had to plow the road. The government plowed it to the top of the hill, and then we had to plow the driveway. So we didn't have a plow naturally, but we did have a backhoe. So we decided, well, we'll do it with the backhoe. It'll take longer, but we'll get there.
Yep.
So he gets just to the crest of the hill and the conks out, right in the middle of the road. And it's the only way in.
Yes.
There's no other way in there.
Yeah.
So now what? Well, we have to get out and go to Kamloops and buy a starter. So we have a brand new Jimmy with nice chrome along the sides, and we got to get up this hill. So, okay, no problem getting up the hill, but how are we going to get past that tobacco? Well, let's hold on, lady, and we'll do it. And he got that close to the backhoe that he peeled the chrome off it. But we got through and went to Kamloops and got the part.
Oh, my.
In those days, he could still do mechanics.
Yep.
And he did the mechanics, and
Oh, my.
we got her going and went on from there.
And, oh, yeah.
But I didn't breathe all for at least 10 minutes. Man,
Yes, that hill hasn't changed.
no, it hasn't. Not much.
This is not a passing lane.
No.
No, and you went to work from there.
Yeah, we had medical insurance, and we had some, those days it was called unemployment insurance, and we had sold our place, of course, so we were able to buy our place without any problem. But then after that, what? So eventually, Jim did get better, and the medicine that we got, there's a whole story involved in that. When you do Jose on medicine, I'll give you that one.
Okay.
And anyhow, the doctor said he would be, the medication would come out of his system in about a year, but it didn't. It didn't come out for about 3 years. And so he could only just do limited things. And so anyhow, I decided, well, I was teaching Lois correspondence at the table. Ken went off to school in a boarding school, and Les went back to the coast to finish his grade 12. So anyhow, it took me as long to teach her at the table. I said to myself, this is stupid. I could teach a whole class in the time this is taking, and I'd get paid. So We talked it over, and I decided I'd go to work. I went up to Williams Lake, and I went to the office and asked for a job. I asked them, why they hadn't sent any reply to my application. Said, because we never got it. So I said, well, I'm here now. I'll fill one out for you. So I did. So the guy that was interviewing me said, well, tell me why I should hire you. I said, because you can't afford not to. I said, I only have a basic teaching certificate, but I have these things that say that I can do it. And so you're getting a real good deal for your bargain, for your wage you're paying me. Looked at it. He says, well, we have an opening at 70 Mile and we have one at Bridge Lake. Which one do you want? I said, well, if I go to 70 Mile, I have to travel or I have to get a buy or rent. And he said, yeah, and there aren't any places at Bridge Lake. They had 180 students there. Wow. And now the school is closed. Yeah. Yeah. Anyhow, he said, we're bringing in trailers. I said, I'll take Bridge Lake. I had a brand new trailer, brand new furniture. They paid for the propane, all moving, everything. $25 a month. Well, I couldn't turn that down.
Yes, yeah.
The propane itself was worth more than that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I had this lovely place, mattresses on the beds, everything. So I went over Monday morning, and I would teach till Friday after school, and then I'd go home.
And Lois went with you.
And Lois went with me, so she was getting her schooling.
Yeah.
And Jim would, by now feeling a little bit better, he would do the odd brick job. Someone wanted a chimney or a fireplace. And he also did some backhoe work. He took his backhoe out and dug those cattle guard things. Stuff like that. And then in the meantime, he was building our house and our buildings. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was quite an adventure.
Not bad for a man who either had 6 months or not.
Oh my goodness, yes. We had 40 good years after that.
Wow.
And he could have been dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, well, you certainly have had some adventures.
Oh.
I know that you were a pillar of Canada Day celebrations.
Oh, yes. Here's my Canada Day book.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Very organized, you see.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
It was a gift from let me see. I'll tell you. I'll think of it.
Yes. Oh my, these were wonderful, wonderful parties. They were potluck celebrations, and adults and children, and games, and good food and good laughs.
Yeah. We had people come out of the bush that never come out.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. This is a huge gift. Yeah. I'm so glad that you were able to take this with you when you were evacuated.
Oh, it was in with my picture albums.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
I want to show you that one picture in there. One of the things that we did was, first of all, Jim and I both had a real pride in being Canadian. His people all came from England and were all immigrants.
Oh, yes.
And all my people were immigrants. Where was that picture? Oh, this one. That's one I wanted to show you. Do you see how the logs go up and down there?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, there's very few places that I know of that are built that way.
Isn't that the Swedish way of doing a log home?
I don't know. Jake and Enid Sheepbauer built it.
I believe
they were
Scandinavian.
And see, that's something you don't see very often in the Caribou.
Yeah, I think it comes from Sweden.
Yeah. This building here was from 1930s. And we just put these extra 3 logs underneath and propped it up. And it was built by McLean, who came up from the United States and preempted it. It was, what do you call it when you measure stuff out?
Surveyor.
Surveyed in 1912.
Oh, okay.
And then he bought it. And then I've got who went to all the way down the line. Anyhow, there's a bunch of old stuff laying around too, like there was in all of these in the building. And so I gathered them all up, and I put them inside this building, and I called it my museum. And I wrote little notes for what everything was. And people coming to visit, I would host a visit to the museum. And you'd be amazed at how many people went through it and how many people enjoyed it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and it was quite the thing way out there in the Bush Museum.
Turkey Gulch.
The way it got its name, you were asking?
Yes.
Okay. Well, apparently, there was a guy there by the name of Miller, C.E. Miller, and he raised turkeys. And when he came into 70 Mile, he was really talkative. And so they called him Windy Miller. So he sold turkeys. So we didn't know any more about that until I was reading a book, and I have the name of the book in here. And in there, a woman who came up from the States and lived at Deca Lake. She said, oh, we're going to have a miserable Christmas because we don't have any Christmas things. And then my husband went down to Lone Butte, that was the trading area, and he was able to procure a turkey. So we had turkey dinner for Christmas, believe it or not. And so she said that he sold the turkey. A man on the Bonaparte Forks sold us the turkey. And the North Bonaparte is now called the Rayfield.
Yes, okay.
But it used to be the Bonaparte. And then you had the regular Bonaparte, so it was the Bonaparte Forks.
Oh, okay.
So it was that guy, whoever lived there.
Yeah.
So when we were tearing the windows out of this thing to put new windows in, we got a packing board, and it said C.E. Miller
Oh, yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
So we knew that he was a real person. Now, there never were turkeys in this area. They don't live here.
And no, not wild turkeys.
No, not wild turkeys. But apparently he did raise turkeys and sell them.
About what year would that have been?
About 1938, probably.
I heard through my first husband's uncle that there was a government program to raise turkeys.
Oh, I'll bet he was in on it.
And the uncle was in on that, and possibly at the same time.
At what time roughly did he think?
It would have been in the 30s.
Yeah.
And he knew nothing about raising turkeys, and turkeys are not notoriously brilliant. And the turkeys would fly up into trees, and then they couldn't get down because they didn't know how to fly down.
We decided if we were going to be Turkey Gulch, we better have some turkeys. So we got turkeys, and I don't know how bright they are. But anyhow, they never went up in the trees, so they must have been fairly smart. We had smart turkeys. But one thing they did, when we first went to the Gulch, they had been going through a drought, that area. And there were so many grasshoppers that they just were, when you walked, there were just a sheet of them going out ahead of you. Well, we got these turkeys, and they would fly up this high to grab a grasshopper. And then, when they had eaten every grasshopper in sight, they started digging around in the dirt for the eggs.
And
Little tiny little
there
eggs.
was method to this madness.
Yeah,
then.
they were wonderful. And but I had a hard time killing them. So it ended up not having any more.
Yeah.
But they're interesting birds.
Yes, they are.
So that was how it got its name, Turkey Gulch. And my husband always teased, so it was Windy Miller here, hey? Well, here she is again.
Here she is again.
So.
Yes, quite a sense of humor, Jim.
Yeah, that was it.
Yes. And so now you have a building down at Turkey Gulch
right now.
now, and is it a log cabin or is it a?
No, it's a prefab. We had it made in Alberta.
Uh-huh.
My daughter got it, and they brought it out. We had it out 2 days before the tax assessor came and the tax notices were done. When I got my notice, I was taxed for it,
Of course.
for being there for 2 days.
Yeah.
So of course I
Bought that.
wrote a letter,
Yes, of course you did.
and they reduced it and didn't do it. So that was good.
Yes, the fire going through certainly changed the beauty of the area, and it is all dead trees now, but it's very green. Yes. Oh. Yeah. Must have been a heck of a cleanup.
It was King from 100 Mile did it.
Kingscape. Yeah.
Yeah, they did it, yeah. So that was kind of, this is the original survey. And it's just, the reason I brought it was to show you how meticulous people used to be. Look at that.
And look at the handwriting. Oh my goodness.
And apparently that fellow went throughout the whole Caribou and did that.
Wow.
He's known for it.
Yes, altitude, latitude, yeah,
Yeah.
how many degrees and
Just absolutely.
yes.
We sent to Victoria and got
There
that.
is no doubt of which place we are talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah. Yeah. What's amazing is all of that detail, and there are still some places that are not on the right piece of property after all.
And this is, I was telling you about when you apply to build something, this is the original building.
For the original log house,
Yeah,
just this.
just that, nothing else.
Application to build, construct, site or move.
Here's the wood pile I was talking about.
My goodness, yes, that is a beautiful wood pile. Look at that. Oh, that's great.
And this was a better picture of giving you the idea of how that logs,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was
yeah.
definitely European. I think it was Swedish.
And this is the one that was built in 1930.
Yeah, yeah, that was an interesting building.
See, and this is the inside of the museum. And this is how you got across the river.
On a log, yes.
And
If you don't have good balance, you're not going.
this is something, did you ever go see the old man in the tree?
I did not. Look at that.
Well, he was there when we got there, and he was there for the people before us, and we don't know how he got there.
I would say somebody culturally altered this tree.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so there it is. And then the reason you want to know why we stayed there, this is probably the reason.
Oh yes, the wildlife, the moose in the window, the bear footprints that are as big as a man's footprint,
There,
and coyotes. And what is this?
he's a cougar,
A cougar. Oh yes,
so.
yes, yes. And I think that's why we all stay here.
Well, we never, I was trying to think, there was never a day we didn't find, like, people say, well, but didn't you get lonely out there? Didn't you get bored? And no. And then Jim would come in and say, guess what? The violets are out, I just found one.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
And something as significant as that, you know,
Yeah.
there'd always be something that was different, you know, and we had to go out and look at this phenomena and see what it was all about.
So Leona, your life was very interesting, and certainly not a piece of cake.
Yeah, well, this was too, and now that Jim has passed on, one comfort that I have, he lived the life he wanted.
Yes, indeed, and I'm so happy that that's where we are going with this. And thank you very much, Leona.
Well, did I tell you everything?
I think you did really good.
Okay.
And if we do this again, I think we'll hit you up again. Okay.